And then there is power shifting. One of the very interesting things that all of us do, and I'm sure it's not true in Israel, but it is very true in North America. In North America, every client and every agency, if you look downstairs in the client and agency's building, you will find these big, big, big boxes. And if you open these big boxes, you will find brains. Because when people go into the offices, they open their brain, take out half of it, throw it into the box, and they go up and work. Okay? They come downstairs, they take the rest of the brain, they put it in, and they go home. Because they behave one way at home, and they behave one way at the office. Okay? At home, they have technology, and they're in charge. In the office, they believe that as marketers, they are in charge. So somebody is wrong, and I think it's the person who's actually in the office. So I just try to tell people, remember, the power has shifted to the end consumer. Someone who has an iPod has more recorded music than music existed 80 years ago. Someone basically with a mobile phone, if you describe what you do with your mobile phone to yourself 10 years ago, someone would say you have godlike power, right? But you still don't market to the gods, you market to consumers. Who are those people? Nobody knows. And then, finally, speed shifting, which I showed you earlier about how fast things are moving. So my thought was, how do we think about this? So I went to Wikipedia, just like Inan went to Wikipedia for interaction, and I asked the question, what is Jazz Age? And this is the description from Wikipedia about the Jazz Age. And if you think about it, it basically talks about technological development, a time of great technological development, and they talk about cars, air travel, and the telephone. Right? So instead, if you put in mobile, internet, and broadband, what you basically have is we're living in the Jazz Age. Because if you think about it, it included a time of great individualism and a great time of social interaction. So to a great extent, what we are now doing is we are living in the Jazz Age, but the Jazz Age was the 1920s in the US. So I thought this is sort of very interesting that we're living in that particular age. We have all heard the term Web 2.0. So what is Web 2.0? Right? Here is the description of Web 2.0 by the people who actually defined Web 2.0, O'Reilly. And you can read this. It's web as platform, etc., etc., etc. Many of you all may ask, what does that mean? So what I did was I actually translated that into English. And after translating it into English, I showed it to the people at O'Reilly. And they said, yeah, this is what it means in English. So here's the definition in English. Open, iterative, linked, participation or participative, and new combinations, which are mashups. So I said, isn't that what it means in English? They said, yes, that's what it means in English. So then I went to Wikipedia and I said, what is jazz? This is the definition of jazz music in Wikipedia. Swinging, improvising, group interaction, developing an individual voice, and being open to different musical possibilities. This is Web 2.0. This is jazz. Web 2.0 is jazz. Okay, simple as that. So when people basically tell you that, oh, it's Web 2.0 and it's technology, I say, yeah, it's jazz music, right? So in effect, in the world that we're basically living in, we have to learn how to play, respond to, and live with jazz music. Now, what's particularly interesting is occasionally I get the benefit of working with very, very, very senior clients. And by senior, I don't necessarily just mean very senior in the organization. I also mean not very young. Okay? And today when I was looking around, I noticed that most of the people here are like the average age of my company, probably less than 30 years old or somewhere in the 30s. right? The decision makers in a lot of companies are a little bit older. Okay? And so what happens is if you give them a whole bunch of big, highfalutin terms, they basically throw you out of the office. They say, what are you talking about? We don't understand. But they do understand jazz music. So we say, well, let's think about jazz music. Do you agree that Web 2.0 is jazz? But now remember when I go everywhere and I ask people, what's bothering you, what's bothering you, what's bothering you, and I gave you 5 reasons? There's a 6th thing. And this is the single biggest thing that is bothering every single client that I know. And it's best described by this statement. And what it is this. When somebody told me, even if I knew what to do, my people and organization would come in the way. So this is a CEO of a company that says, even if I knew the answer, I couldn't make my people or my organization do it. Right? So the real issue is we have classical structures in a jazz age, which basically is we're organized all wrong for where the world is going. That's really what companies are saying. And to a great extent, what we basically tell our clients is, this is not about going to the latest technology conference. It's maybe trying to figure out whether you have the right people, the right partners, and the right way of thinking. Because that is really what's bothering people, and it's not, give me the latest subservient chicken. Because that's a symptom. That's not actually, what the problem is. So once we say that, people say, okay, that's fine, so what do we do? So if this is a jazz age, our suggestion was, let's learn from the very best jazz players. Now, I'm familiar with the very best jazz players in the US. They're actually the world, but they may be in the US. And they were in the jazz age, and there were people like John Coltrane and Miles Davis and a whole bunch of other people. So if you read about them, there were 7 things they did to play great jazz music. So maybe if we do the 7 same things, we can have great organizations for this new age. So what are they? So these are the 7 principles. So in effect, what I would ask you all to do is ask yourselves, is A, your company doing some of these, or how can your company do some of these? 2, forget about your company, because a company isn't offices, a company isn't even technology, a company is people. Are you yourself doing any of these, or could you do any of these better? Right? So these are the 7 principles of great jazz players, which will probably make a great jazz musician. Which will also, I think, make a very good way of being very good at interaction. So with that being said, let me take you through them.